Welcome, everyone. My name is Xiamin. I'm the lead at Parcel Monitor, the leading platform for e-commerce logistics insights. Together with our studies and experts around the world, we hope to provide our community members a platform to acquire knowledge and exchange insights about retail, e-commerce, and logistics. So thank you very much for joining us today on our Unpacking series, where we invite industry experts to unpack key concepts from trending topics in retail, e-commerce, and logistics. So today, we're extremely happy to have with us our logistics and supply chain expert, Suharto, AVP of Xpressbees, to unpack hyperlocal delivery in e-commerce. Suharto comes with nearly a decade of supply chain experience under his belt and was previously working as a GM at Swiggy, India's food delivery giant. Of course, since today is an Ask Me Anything session, apart from hyperlocal delivery, you can ask our thought leader about his career path, challenges, personal growth, and journey. So no question is off topic. We have already received a very nice number of questions to start with, but if you have any questions, we love questions, please ask questions during the session. Do leave a comment directly or submit a question through the Slido link if you're a bit shy, and this will be at the comment section as well. So enough of me talking. Without further ado, let's get this session started. So I hope you're already warmed up and ready for the first question.
All right. Firstly, Jamin, thank you for the introduction, and thank you everybody who has taken out time and attending the session, and in general are interested about hyperlocal and intercity delivery. So thank you for your time, and hope you have a wonderful session.
Yeah, thanks for the sneak peek into what you do, Suharto. So my first question is actually for us and for the community to get to know you a bit better. So Suharto, can you first introduce yourself to the community and with a little of a twist, so without using the words logistics or supply chain?
Yeah. So let me use another fancy word, which is manufacturing. And that is when it all started. I was working in a government firm in India. And I worked there for quite some time. It was around 5.5 years. And there it was a steel industry, which got me interested in inventory, because steel industry, there are so many consumables and like Indian rupee crores of business just happening on daily consumables. And inventory was a problem, which and then I took some courses from MIT, and I actually jumped into the MIT's supply chain course, their Asia track. Post that, I came back to India, and then I joined Swiggy. I was responsible for launching numerous cities, states, and this was not only in food. When the COVID time struck, we entered into the grocery delivery. We were delivering almost everything, and we were helping the government in many forms. And the best part is that we were helping the people when they needed. We were helping India when it was needed, and so that was like in a very small way, but this was something which we had to do. And post that, I was taking care of cloud kitchens for a short while in Swiggy, and then I jumped into the Xpressbees growth story, where we are trying to create both intracity and hyperlocal services to enable D2C, direct to retail, which is D2R. And from the hyperlocal business, we are trying to create the slotted and on-demand deliveries through omni-channel methods, be it food, be it apparel, be it lifestyle, be it grocery, anything.
Thanks for that introduction, Suharto. Very interesting story. Followed your passion to logistics and working in such an exciting space. I believe in India, such a large country, working on hyperlocal delivery, it must be challenging, but also very meaningful work that you're working on. So thanks for the introduction. So let's dive right into the questions that we have from our audience. So the very first question is someone who submitted a question to Slido, and he says, this is a very interesting topic. So can you tell us a bit more about hyperlocal delivery? And could you share some country examples? So maybe from your experience.
Right. So in the midst, right, when we were dealing in 2018 in Swiggy, that what are the things that we could do and how we can set up this business. There were already, the main cities were already live, but this was something that at that time there was a rider fleet which we were, it was not a salaried model, right? And there were like per packet shipments type of model. There were part-timers. We had to source college students, and there were, like, we were promoting the freelancer model, right? And that was the beginning of the thought that we might not have entirely dedicated fleet, but we can have a mix of freelancers and a dedicated. And then the thing became that the system was more favorable to freelancers, and hence we went on to that. So I think so. The example comes from my previous company. There are other companies like Zomato, and now certain companies like Grofers, who are entering into the food business. But as so, I told the company name first because you might have heard them in different forms, and so I think that by listening to the company, you have created some sort of a mental image. Now I'll come to the part of hyperlocal delivery. Hyperlocal, as it seems, local, it is something which is nearby. Now we are just telling 4 to 5 kilometers from your residence. Just don't quote me on 4 to 5, but I'm telling it's very, very near to your residence. Now, a few years back, nobody could think that local store, why don't I go down and get the food or something, or the grocery or the apparel or the cosmetic? Why is it such a big word nowadays? And this is where we see that the ecosystem has somewhat developed, that first of all, the consumers can simply go down, and they can, first of all, they know that that particular shop has that inventory. That is the biggest thing. And second thing is that while they are becoming themselves more productive, the shipment is coming to their home seamlessly. And this is why hyperlocal delivery is nothing but delivering from a very nearby store, and delivering in different categories, so be it food, apparel, grocery, to your home in some stipulated time. It can be 30 minutes, it can be 1 hour, 2 hours, and this is what companies generally, they also commit to the consumers, and they adhere to it. So in short, it is delivering from your nearby store to your house. That's
Thanks for the introduction into hyperlocal delivery, Suharto. So I think a very good follow-up question also from our audience is, so given that hyperlocal delivery is delivering from very nearby stores, right? So as a retailer, so why should actually retailers consider having a hyperlocal delivery strategy, in your opinion?
great. So here there are twofold answers. One is what the retailer will get if COVID would not have struck, and this type of ecosystem would not have flourished in the first instance. So in my opinion, I think so this transition had to happen, but COVID accelerated the transition. So, and the second thing is that how the entire, like how the present system, because we are not yet completely out of COVID in different forms in across the globe, I'm talking about. So the first structure is that the retailers now wants to uh, so the first is the pre-COVID world. Retailer now wants to utilize as a concept of revenue per square feet, or profit per square feet. So you have a retail store. How can you maximize the revenue, and how can you maximize the profit? So you have offline customers, you are not disturbing them. Just that there is an added route of sales. That is what omnichannel creates. And these sales are something that, even if you say now what is Instagram and Facebook marketing, people from rural India are selling wonderful products, and they are getting delivered to metro cities. Similarly, here there are many retailers around you who will be selling, suppose, products which are difficult to get. Suppose a curtain hook, you will find it in Amazon, but it will take some time. Other places you will not get it online. But what about that? You don't have to go to n number of shops and find. You just check it online, you find it, and you place the order wherever, whichever store has that product in the 5 to 6 kilometer will come and bring it to you. So it makes your life simple. And from the retailer point of view, it is that he's getting more revenue from the same inventory, from the same square feet area, and he does not have to deploy a manpower also to deliver the order. Now, in the post-COVID world, where we see that the offline, or there are lockdowns, offline systems are going offline due to curfew and due to various restrictions, people are reluctant to come to your store. And then the dependency on this online channel increases. So now you can see that when you have both the channels, you can switch on, switch off, for both the percentages will change, but still you will not go to that. The revenues will not plummet if you are dependent on a lockdown type of situation. Your revenue will still continue to grow. So that is the basic concept of how a retailer can actually benefit from a hyperlocal delivery service.
Thanks, Suharto. So what I'm hearing is that with the hyper-local delivery strategy, retailers can open to more avenues of revenue and offer more delivery kind of alternatives to their end consumers. Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, so we also have a question from John, also similar to what are kind of the advantages. In your opinion, is hyper-local delivery more cost efficient as opposed to your typical kind of last mile delivery? Because I think like what you mentioned, they are very nearby. They are also usually smaller kind of shops, and there's a very short delivery time. So in your opinion, is it more cost efficient?
Okay. So thanks for the question, John. I think so it's a very good question. So firstly, last mile delivery is by itself. If you see a traditional, I'm assuming that last mile delivery, you mean a traditional e-com delivery or a courier delivery. There, obviously, this hyperlocal delivery is way more costlier than a normal last mile delivery. The simple thing is that one person is carrying 20, 30, 40, 50 parcels depending on the vehicle. Is a biker, like a van or a bigger lorry. Uh, Same thing, but for hyperlocal, it is mainly one-on-one delivery, or there are two parts to hyperlocal delivery. One is a slotted delivery, which is somewhat like your last mile delivery, but you don't carry 20, you carry 4 to 5, which is so last mile delivery is most cost efficient. Slotted delivery comes next. Then the on demand service is not so cost efficient, but how the ecosystem runs is that how like Instacarts of the world, where consumers are paying for this extra delivery cost and partially it is coming from the commissions from the retailers. So hence, as a value proposition, it is good for both the retailers, for the consumers, and for the ecosystem. But cost-wise, it is higher. That is true, and it is about cost versus time. Last mile, why is it cost efficient? Because it is taking more time, and that's why it is cost efficient. Now we are decreasing time, hence the cost part is increasing. Now you see that as a company, if we have more number of retail outlets, or we will do the deliveries from more number of retail outlets, then we can actually batch those orders, and that is where the cost efficiency comes, and that is where it also creates like an advantage for that particular company, right? And that's why you see that there is a duopoly in food, right? Why there is a duopoly in food like Swiggy and Zomato? There are other players, but the honchos are these. It is because of this particular reason. There are certain sectors where Xpressbees is the market leader. It is because of this very sector that we have so much density that we can aggregate the order, which decreases cost for the client, for the consumer, for the ecosystem, and that is how we deliver. But to answer your question bluntly, it is last mile, slotted, and then hyperlocal from as an increasing cost curve.
Okay. That's very interesting answer. And yeah, I think that also relates to your answer to the previous question, right? So this trend seems to be really sparked by consumer demand, where consumers are more and more increasingly want to have on-demand kind of deliveries, shorter kind of time frames, etc. So retailers, carriers are really just responding to this consumer demand in this regard and offering them more choices. So the next question is more on the sustainability topic. So we have a question from Mira, who asks, is hyperlocal delivery more sustainable for the environment?
Right. So, Mira, I think so. Again, thank you for the question, because sustainable delivery is the ask of the future, and no matter now, even Xpressbees has a fleet of electrical vehicles, and even be it Swiggy, Zomato, everybody has electric bikes. Okay, so they might not be owned by the rider itself, but it's for rental, and there's a commission basis for that also. Sustainable delivery is the future, and in many ways there are companies also who actually are their products, if they are sustainable, then you just think of a world where a company is actually giving this image that it's a sustainable company. Hence, the delivery also has to be sustainable, right? We cannot depend on fossil fuel. And there are like now around 10 to 20% of all fleets are sustainable in India. Like sustainable in the sense they use green energy, which is electric vehicles. And as and when we get more adoption in the sense of changing battery, if you see that if you cannot load a vehicle much when it's an electric vehicle, so as the vehicle also capacity increases, and if you load much, then your speed decreases. So this marrying between load and speed, as and when this gets improved in the industry, you will see more adoption. Now, one of the slight reasons why the adoption is 20%, which is also fantastic, uh, is because the ecosystem, even the battery changing part, is not yet so developed. And as and when the industry develops, the percentage of a sustainable fleet will also increase. And there is also, don't quote me in this, but usually sustainable fleets are also cheaper as of now. But when the demand rises and supply demand, how will it play in the neo world? That is difficult to comment. But as of now, it is way cheaper, because now, because of the war-like situation, barrel prices are increasing, and hence it will be even cheaper compared to that. But yeah, but in future, this is the way forward. That is undeniable.
Thanks for sharing. I think this is really interesting to know that in India, there's about 10 to 20% fleets that are really sustainable and using green energy. So I'm not even sure whether we have those numbers here in Singapore. So yeah, thanks for sharing that as well. So actually, I have a question, I think, on my side for you and Suharto. So given that consumers are demanding for hyper local kind of deliveries, why do you think that is so? Like, why do you think consumers today are requesting for more on-demand, hyper-local kind of deliveries?
Right. So suppose, let me take that. Okay, Gemin is a consumer. You are getting a product in suppose 2 hours, and the same product in the non-hyperlocal world you are getting in suppose 2 days. Which one will you prefer? You will prefer the 2 hours one, right?
Of course.
Now,
Yeah.
now I think so. That is what the industry is looking for. It is consumers. If you see, suppose, let us break into two parts. One is the retailers and what is the consumers. For retailers, it is a tough game. It is a game of inventory. Okay, which inventory to keep near, which inventory to be kept in the warehouse, right? This game by itself is a very, like, so companies are evolving also, and that's why you will hear about dark stores, you will hear omni-channel retail, and that is why D2C is also increasing. Okay, because companies are also seeing that they cannot keep all the inventories, or they might not have all the sizes in the same omni-channel store, right? And to coming to your question, that but they are understanding their own geography, own 5 to 6 kilometer radius geography. They are saying that these are the best selling products, let me keep it and let me serve my consumers to the maximum potential possible. They are parallelly also changing what they're keeping in the nearest warehouse, which is becoming D2C. And this warehouse is right at the periphery of the city. This is where your product is there in a nearby store, inventory is there, the fleet is there, you get in 2 hours. It is away from, it's at the periphery of the city, you get in 8 hours, right? So you see that when you know that you will get your product on the same day, then why will you wait for even another day? This is for the consumer. And if the consumer, and if the, like, if the website charges you, then there is a cost benefit analysis, right? But slowly, when, like, slowly this good to have becomes a must have, that is where the curve goes, right? That good to have becomes a must have. And that is when, so now even some companies might charge a premium for it, but slowly it will become a must have. And that is where the world is going. Consumers are becoming ever more demanding. Consumers, and rightly so, because the options are there, right? And because the inventory management is there, the fleet that we are putting is there. So why shouldn't we cater to that demand, right? And that is the whole, it's a game of the ecosystem, as I always say, right?
Yes, interesting. And of course, consumers demand that, they get used to it. More and more retailers offer it, and then it gets more and more competitive. So you have to offer it eventually. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is, yeah, that is the thing. And also, sometimes it has also happened that this long tail, sometimes the online, when you start selling online, you suddenly come to know that your consumers also want this.
Yeah.
Okay, till now, during your offline version, you're focused on certain products, but your online consumers, because they are not seeing the shop, right? They might not even, so the consumers might not even know that this thing existed, and hence they have never asked the shopkeeper about that product. So I think so this, there are a lot of channels which opens up when you come online, and when you know that there is a promised delivery also attached to it.
Yeah, great. Great answer. Thanks for explaining, Suharto. I think also it gives everyone a bit more context on like how this came about, and the whole scene right now. So maybe going back to the questions that we have from our audience. So I think we have a question from Abdullah. So this question is, so what are the challenges or problems that a business should deal with while running a hyper local delivery model?
Oh, so Abdullah, thank you for the question. I guess the challenges and problems are many, and because there are challenges and problems, there is an opportunity. Okay. Now the question is that, first of all, a fleet, right? Setting a fleet. There are two parts to these challenges. One is as a delivery company for us, and for any delivery company, be it Swiggy, Zomato, also, it is the fleet that is difficult to first to onboard, to maintain, and then also to keep them motivated, right? Um, and the second challenge is from a retailer point is the inventory part, which I've mentioned. It is very difficult to predict that because you have the same space, else you have to keep on increasing your space, and suddenly you come to know that you have also created a space for your tail products at the heart of the city where you are paying exorbitant rents. So, so I think so. The challenges are this: that which inventory to keep, what percentage of inventory to keep if you do an ABC analysis. For us, that when will the demand come, it should not be that during suppose lunchtime all the demand comes, then we cannot increase the utilization, we'll be like underutilized at one time, we'll be overutilized at the other time. So it's marrying them both. I think so that is the whole charm of the hyperlocal business. Yet I would say that there are certain categories which have like which have gone through the like paths, but the environment is continuously evolving, and hence there will see more challenges and more solutions to those challenges, which actually makes the ecosystem to grow.
Thanks, Suharto. And okay, so we also have another question from Rafu, who says, okay, so what could or what would be a differentiating factor that Xpressbees brings to the table as it ventures into the hyper-local business? I think this must be
Right.
your forte.
Yes. So Rahul is my colleague. So yeah, thanks for the question. Uh, there are many differentiating factors. The first thing is that now the entire world is in the F&B sector, and we plan to enter other sectors also. Uh, the second differentiating factor is that we are going into a mix of hyperlocal and intracity, where if your inventory, the inventory drives the transportation. Your inventory is right there in the locality, 2 hours delivery. If it is not there, 8 hours delivery. This is something that we are offering to the consumers, and uh, this is a one of a kind value proposition for the consumers, where they don't have to think that what type of transportation it will happen. They just have to focus on their core product and their inventory planning, and the rest part we will take care. Now, this intracity planning, how can we deliver in 8 hours? There is a charm to it. Xpressbees is known to deliver 15 to 20 million shipments per day, and we have lot of service centers, so we'll be capitalizing on our real estates, we'll be capitalizing on our network of retailers, franchisees, our entire network to capitalize on a faster intracity. And this is a big USP compared to so companies which might take a next day delivery to deliver. We will be able to do it within 8 hours. And similarly for a hyperlocal delivery, as we are venturing into multiple sectors, and there are also other forms of businesses which will feed into this. Uh, so there is demand not only from the retailers, there is also an internal demand which is getting generated, which increases the utilization of the fleet. And hence it becomes more cost effective for us, and we pass on the benefits to our consumers. So these two are the broadly in these two sections we plan to be differentiating from the entire from our competitors. And there are other plans where eventually there are competitors who will catch up, and the ecosystem will also change a lot. But we have some backup plans also, and that will get unraveled as we go deep into the business.
Thanks, Suharto. That sounds really exciting. This is, of course, a new space. Things are going to be evolving. People are going to try to get into this space. So we'll definitely be watching how you and Xpressbees will be evolving with time to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So we're approaching the end of the session, but I would just like to wrap up with a last question from the audience. Suharto, so what do you think businesses need in order to start offering hyper-local deliveries, like a starter
Oh, this
kit?
is okay. This is easy. Like for if you are a business in India, you need to tie up with Xpressbees, and if you're not in India, it is that there will be somebody who will be providing these services. Now it might be, as this also depends on a lot of density, right? So it might be that in certain pin codes it might not be present. But in short, there are two parts to it. If you create an Instagram page, suppose as simple as an Instagram page, okay, and then you put a trigger, even a CSV upload, right? I think so. This will to a portal, be it Xpressbees or be it some company, be it suppose in Singapore, be it Grab also, right? So you can just to transfer this. There need not be any tech integration, at least in Xpressbees, and you can do the pilot. And if you're successful in your pilot, then you can do an API integration, which will be even more smoother and more visibility. But to start with, you can definitely just opt for one, do a CSV upload in a format, and whenever you get a this is for this I'm telling for slotted delivery, because that is the best way to start, because it will be more economical for a new business. And then yes, so the riders are allocated based on the slots which are given already. The manpower planning will be done, and we will also, before that, any company will take what TAT you would like to give to the consumers, and entire the costing structure will be according to the TAT, and this is the norm. And yeah, and off your product goes to the consumer's house.
Thanks, Suharto. It does sound like, yes, I think you should consult or get in touch with an expert if you really want to go on board with the hyper-local kind of deliveries model. It does sound that there's quite a bit of prep work to be done as a retailer or e-commerce company. But thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's been a very insightful session. I've learned a lot about hyper-local deliveries, learned about, of course, Xpressbees and the work that you do. So thank you so much for joining us today, Suharto.
Thank you so much. Thank you
So
everybody
thank
for
you.
attending and for the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The questions were great. Great discussion as well. And thank you everyone for staying on for today's discussion. So for more of such events with industry experts like Suharto, do remember to follow us on our LinkedIn page and sign up as a community member of householmonitor.com. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.